Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I am Paul Ndiho. On this episode, we are zeroing in on a political flashpoint in West Africa. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara, at 83 years old, has officially declared that he's running for a controversial fourth term, a move that has reignited all tensions and triggering a storm of criticism from opposition leaders and the civil society. Ouattara says he's doing this to preserve national stability, but with the key challengers barred from running and peaceful protesters are banned, critics say democracy is under threat. For more insight, Ndiho Media spoke with Nyaka Lagoke, Associate Professor of History, Philosophy and Religion at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. He warns that this decision could plunge the country back into the dangerous political waters. As Ivory Coast heads towards a pivotal election in October, the stakes could not be higher. Joining me to discuss the latest development in Ivory Coast is my good friend, Dr. Nyaka Lagoke. Nyaka, welcome to Different Perspectives.
Proud of you.
It's always a pleasure to have you. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine.
What do you make of Ouattara's decision to run for a fourth term? Is it legally justified under the 2016 constitutional changes, or this is just political maneuvering?
Some people are surprised, but we were not surprised because there were so many signs that he was going to run for the fourth term. And he can say what he wants to say, but the constitution which was approved by the majority of Ivorians in 2000 during the transition stated that a president can have only 2 terms. And then he came and then he made some changes and then we knew what he was doing. And then under the new constitutions, which by the way is not that it was not new, they made a few amendments and then according to what they think, he said that he could run again, that is legally justified to run, but it is not true. And then, of course, it is not a good moment for the country.
Interesting. Tell me something. Many top opposition figures, including former President Laurent Gbagbo, Soro, and Tijen Thiam, have been barred from running.
Yes.
How does he justify all this stuff?
That's the question. Because how can you justify that? He was facing some challenges because of his nationality, and then many people sympathize with him, even though it was proved that he had claimed the citizenship of Burkina Faso, but in the name of peace, many other people thought that he should be included in the political game in Ivory Coast. And then for him to do that, he raised the rebellion, and then everyone knows the story. And then eventually he could run, and he was declared a president by the electoral commissions, supported by the international community, and he became the effective president of Ivory Coast in 2011. So many, I don't know why they were thinking that Ouattara will bring peace to Ivory Coast, but there was no real reconciliation in the country. Many of the opponents, people with dissenting voices, were in prison. Some of them died in prison, and many were fired from the administration. So when he decided that he was going to run, when we have signed that he was going to run, we knew that he was going to do everything possible to prevent heavyweights. And then when I talk about heavyweights, I talk about the former president of Ivory Coast, Laurent Gbagbo, who was taken to The Hague with the approval of Mr. Ouattara. And then he spent many years there. He was acquitted. And then when he went back to the country, we see that Mr. Ouattara was trying to find everything possible to prevent Laurent Gbagbo to run for president of the country. So, so we knew that because when Gbagbo was not when he was in the Hague, there was he was condemned in absentia for taking the money from the local branch of the West African Bank in order to pay the salaries during the crisis of 2010-2011. We know that it is not a valid claim, but they did that. So now, only for us to see that Tidiane Thiam, we belong to the same generation. When we were growing up in Ivory Coast, we knew that his father came from Senegal, but his father was minister in Ivory Coast, and then so his father was seen in Ivory Coast as a Ivorian born Senegalese. Tidiane was born Ivorian, and then he grew up in Ivory Coast. He went to school. We saw him on TV because he's very brilliant. And then when he was getting all those prizes, and then he went to France, like many people who go overseas. He certainly he took a citizenship from France, and now Mr. Ouattara's people they took that. It's like a kind of scheme to say that he was not Ivorian when he was trying to put his name on the electoral list, and then now they don't want him to run for president. And then he's the leader of the first big political party in the country. So Guillaume, we know, he fell in disgrace when he supported Ouattara. He's in exile, and then Blé Goudé. So all the people who could somehow challenge his authority or his desire to run for the fourth time, all of them were excluded from the electoral list. We have some names: Simone Gbagbo, Gbagbo's former wife, and we know Gbagbo's former wife and Gbagbo right now they are not political allies, and then so her name is on the electoral list. So it's a kind of game that Mr. Ouattara's system put into place. We know the election cannot be inclusive, it cannot be transparent, and it has never been inclusive since it came to power. And then today, now we're seeing that people can see the true face of Mr. Ouattara, who was supported by many. Then I'm not going to mention some names. I'm going to stop there.
Let me do a quick follow-up. You know, you love soccer, I love soccer. I'm going to use this analogy here. How do you play on a soccer field when everybody who is trying to run against you, his hands are tied behind them and you're telling them to kick? And yet for you, you have this leverage, you have a free range, you can do whatever you want. How credible is this election going to be if all these opposition leaders are sidelined, have been technically knocked out of the ballot?
Yes, and then that is the game he's playing, and then there are many who support him who think that it is justified. That is the crazy part of that story. They think it is okay, it is normal. And somebody who mobilized the entire planet with his networks and his links, his support, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, all of them, they were making some noise in 2010, 2011 to say that somebody who raised a rebellion in the country, that he was that he won a democratic election, that he deserved to be the president of the country. But now, 10 years or 15 years after the crisis, they see that, listen, when we were talking about Gbagbo being, when Gbagbo was sent to the Hague, we were denouncing that. It's not that Gbagbo's forces did not commit any crimes, but the reality is that the same way today they're talking about Russia being the aggressor against Ukraine, that is the same way in the case of Ivory Coast. The one who raised the rebellion, it is Mr. Alassane Ouattara. And then he justified that because he said that he was excluded. And then they start to put a kind of propaganda, and many people thought it was true. So he came, like I said, we cannot mention the names and the number of people who were killed, who were sent to prison, who were in exile, who lost their jobs, who lost their savings. We cannot mention that. And then This is what Ivory Coast has been living in, and then many thought that it was okay as long as they can do their business, or they can make some money, or have some profit in the country. So you talking about soccer, and then hands tight, and they ask you to run and to play. Same thing with uh, there is the prime minister of Mali. His name is I think Abdoulaye Maiga, and then he gave a speech to the United Nations, I think last year or 2 years ago, and then he has a beautiful metaphor, and he said that the third term that Mr. Ouattara was like he got, that many people in Africa many leaders they want to have. It is the magic of dribbling yourself, and while you keep the ball. So this is what he said. So it was funny, and then I can see the video. If you can use the translation, you can listen to it. So that is the reality. So it is not fair, it is unjust, and it is going to lead the country into more chaos, more trouble. And then ECOWAS and the United Nations, they are not saying anything, or the United Nations is too quiet. They have some lukewarm position about the situation, and then we don't want people to come later on and then say, you know what, you guys are not respecting the democratic rules because something may happen in the country. So this is what people need to understand.
You know, you bring up a very good point. There are people who look at these institutions, ECOWAS, the African Union, the United Nations, and they say it's just clubs of these guys who, quote unquote, have taken over power. In some cases, let's say ECOWAS and the African Union have taken a stand on people who overthrow the government, right? They stop cooperating with them, they put sanctions on them. Why is it so hard for the same institutions to hold these guys accountable who circumvent the rules, the constitution, and somehow miraculously come up with these slogans or things that they want to do by circumventing the constitutions and running for a third term? Why can't the same leaders who run for a third term, a fourth term, be held to the same account to like those people who overthrow these governments?
It's a very good question. The reality is that when there is a situation in the country, like you said, we don't see towards reacting as we want to talk about West Africa. So it's like a double tender situation. We saw how ECOWAS went after Mali, after Niger, and after Burkina Faso, when people did some coup d'etat there because of some political situations that no one could resolve. What Mr. Ouattara is doing, many think that it is a constitutional coup, right? It is not a military coup, but it is a constitutional coup, and he's not the only one. And we've seen that in West Africa. Macky Sall from Senegal wanted to do that. It was not successful. People are suspecting the president of Guinea-Bissau to do the same thing. Recently in Togo, we saw that there was a change of political system there, and then whereby the current leader of the country is not going to go to any election, but he's the leader. And then from the president of the republic, which that position is still there, but he's going to become the president of the council of ministers, but he did not run for any election. So these are situations that are serious in Africa. We know the situation of Kagame. He's been there for how many years? And then Paul Biya is there after what? He's 92. He's going to run for the seventh term, like in Cameroon. So if those African leaders of the African Union, if they don't think that these matters are serious, they are also part of the crisis or the part of the problem in Africa. Because even though many people are supporting the Sahel state leaders, Mali, Niger, and Burkina, because they are embarking on the agenda of the African economic sovereignty, but many in Africa want to see democracy. Many in Africa want to see a change of power. Many in Africa want to see a fair and then transparent democratic elections. And Senegal is one of the good examples on the continent. So if it happens in Senegal and then we do not see any civil war, it means that it can happen in those African countries. Now, those ECOWAS leaders, they are not accountable because they think that they are above the law. They can do anything they want, and many of the leaders are not effective leaders. Many of the leaders are not delivering on the agenda that they promised to the people, and they're still in power. So Ivory Coast is just one of the examples of something that is happening on the continent, and it is about time that many on the continent rally people around the world in order to to call and to denounce that kind of leadership on the continent of Africa.
I follow the politics in Ivory Coast. I follow the politics in West Africa. Let's say across Africa. There are people, some fans of Ouattara, who argue that Ouattara's continued leadership ensures stability and economic growth. But of course, there are critics who say it undermines democracy. Now, I'm not an expert on the region, but which narrative holds more weight in today's Ivory Coast?
So, what people call stability is silencing dissenting views. It is silencing leaders of the opposition. It is using the might of the state in order to crush dissenting opinions, in order to send people to this is what people call peace. And then, of course, King, quoting Dr. King, peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is about meeting the needs of the people. It is about respecting the rights of individuals. It is about economic freedom. It is about political freedom. It is about all those things. And Ivory Coast is far from being in the context of real peace. That's the first thing I want to say. The second element is about the mirage of economic development in Ivory Coast. Yes, there are some beautiful bridges. Yes, there are some beautiful roads. And then we have to give some credit to the president, Mr. Ouattara, for that. When Ivory Coast organized the Africa Cup of Nations, the Football Africa Cup of Nations, we saw some of the things that he did. I'm talking about roads, bridges, and then some of the hotels that were built in Ivory Coast. So yes, somehow this we can give him credit for that. But the question is that real development? In a country in which we cannot have people like Aliko Dangote, we don't have local champions in the Ivorian local champions who can be the drivers of a national and sovereign economy in the country. That is the problem people have to understand. When you are embracing the neoliberal economic paradigm, and then they talk about growth at the level of the state, and then it does not trickle down. People can still claim you as a champion they can talk about you as a great developer, but you are not bringing real development in the country. So that is the reality. Most of the roads, most of the bridges that Mr. Ouattara built, they are owned by international companies, by multinationals. So when they pay the toll, the money goes out to those European companies. That is not development. Ivory Coast imports foodstuff, rice that we eat. It is imported, comes from overseas. We don't see everyone controlling their own economy. When I talk about foreigners, I'm not talking about the people from Burkina Faso. And I'm not talking about people from Mali or Niger. I'm talking about the Europeans who undertook a system of colonialism, of slavery, and a system of neocolonialism. That is the reality in Ivory Coast. So many people are hurting, many people are suffering, but the Ivory Coast government is using it like its power to portray an image of a country that is prosperous, and then this is what they're doing, but that's not the real reality on the ground.
Uh, Maybe how are ordinary Ivorians reacting to this news of Ouattara's candidacy? Is there widespread support, or it's public frustration beginning to boil over again, like we saw previously?
No, so let me do some arithmetic, even though I'm not good in arithmetic. We have Babo's party. He used to have the Ivorian Popular Front. Now he created a political party called the African People Political Party, PPRC. And then he still is Babo, even though many of his supporters are not on the electoral list. I would say many, but some are not on the electoral list. But he is Babo. He was the leader of the opposition for decades, and he was president, and then he survived coup d'etat, he survived the International Criminal Court, and there are some people who support him, and there are many left in the country. And then we have the PDCI, the first ruling party in the country, which sided with Mr. Ouattara's party against Babo during the crisis. And then Henri Konan Bédié, the one who became president after Houphouët-Boigny. Henri Konan Bédié was there. And then when Henri Konan Bédié died, when Tidjane Thiam came from the banking system from overseas to take the leadership of the party, we saw that there is a new energy in that party. And then we see that many people who did not want to decide to be in either position, they decided to join Tidjane Thiam party because of Tidjane Thiam. So we see that energy. You're not going to tell me, and then those two parties, the leaders are excluded. Then of course, you can imagine that at least 50% of the country is against Mr. Ouattara's candidacy because the leaders have been excluded, at least 50%. We can talk about Madame Babo, Mrs. Babo, we can talk about Soro Guillaume or Blegude. Even though they don't have major political parties, there are still very important figures in the political spectrum of Ivory Coast. So people are not happy. Mr. Ouattara can say anything he wants. Based on the information that we have, even in his own party, yes, there are some people who think that he's the only one who can still make them be on the winning side, but there are some who do not want him to be there. Remember, he lost already two prime ministers, Ahmed Bakariko, who wanted to be president of the country, and Amadou Koulibaly, who wanted to be president of the country, who wanted to succeed Mr. Ouattara. Those two, somehow, they died. You understand? And then Patrick Ashi, who came from the PDCI Tidjane Thiam party, who was Mr. Ouattara's prime minister, Patrick Ashi too, once he has some presidential ambition. And the Speaker of the House, Victor Go, when people were talking about the possibility of not seeing Mr. Ouattara running for the fourth term, Victor Go, we saw that he said in some interviews that he was ready to step in. So you're not going to tell me that Victor Go is going to be happy that Mr. Ouattara is going to run again for the fourth term while he's 83. So based on the information that we have, many people in Mr. Ouattara camp are anxious because guess what? When he's gone, how are they going to be able to sustain that system? How? There may be some retaliation, some revenge when he's gone against his people. So I'm not encouraging that, but it is the reality, and this is also part of history. So but that's why many of them are anxious. So that is the reality on the ground.
You make a greater point. I remember in 2010, leading to 2011, you had a lot of protests there. You had a lot of people killed. Uh, is that something that is likely to happen, considering that you guys have been through that history, especially with the bans on all these protesters, the ban on all these political opposition leaders in the country?
Yeah, Mr. Ouattara and his system, they think that they're so strong, they're so powerful, that no one can come and dislodge them from power. This is what they think. In 2010, 2011, one of the advantages that he had, beside having this, beside the support that he got from the Europeans, is that he had a rebellion. He had like an army of people who decided to go and do like an armed struggle against Dabo's regime. So they are there. And then even the element that you talk about 2010, 2011, they were constantly taken to the streets in order to create a system and a context of a permanent uprising against Dabo. So, and then at the same time, they had that armed struggle that they were conducting. But now, there is no army created in the Ivory Coast on behalf of Babo. There is no army on behalf of Tijem. There is no army on behalf of Sologem, even though he was the leader of the rebellion. Many of his supporters have been crushed, and then so Sologem is in exile. So Mr. Ouattara is fearing a popular uprising. That's why in 2020, when he wanted to run for the third term, when people took to the streets, there were some, so they crossed the distinction, and they even put in house arrest the former president, his former ally, Henri Conan Bédier, and many people, hundreds of people, were taken to prison, and then they killed, according to some numbers, they killed around 100 people in 2020. So I can tell you now, people are waiting or seeking the opportunity to take to the streets. There was a rally. People want to organize August the 2nd, and then somebody from the administration who is leading before the prefect, the governor, in fact, not the governor, it's an administrative position, the one who manages the city of Abidjan, did not authorize the rally. So if we are in a democratic environment, are you supposed to allow people to take to the streets or to organize, the demonstration? But sooner or later, people are going to take to the streets, and then we don't know what will happen in Ivory Coast. But people are talking about the possibility of doing everything possible, everything constitutional, everything democratic, in order to stop Ouattara's ambition to be the president of Ivory Coast for a third anti-constitutional term.
Given that history that you just laid out of post-election violence, how can these regional bodies like ECOWAS, the African Union, what role can they play to make sure that there is a peaceful election in that part of West Africa?
I don't know what ECOWAS can do. Remember when there was a military coup in Niger, like a palace revolution, when the current leader of the military junta in Niger, when he was deposed Bazoum, the elected ineffective leader of Niger. Remember, Mr. Ouattara wanted to go and do a war against Niger. You remember? And he was speaking on behalf of ECOWAS. So this is what he spoke about in the beginning of the show. He is a member. He's a very important member of ECOWAS, and then so nobody is going to come and tell him that he cannot do what he's doing. Then same thing. So this, I think that is a tragedy for ECOWAS, and then people on the ground, people who are freedom seekers and justice lovers in Ivory Coast, in Africa and around the world should do what they can do. But I think that the traditional partners of Ivory Coast, I'm talking about France, they lost the battle. Somehow they could not prevent him from running. And then Tidiane Thiam is in exile. And then he cannot go back to Ivory Coast unless there is a real change in Ivory Coast political system. So wait and see. But it's going to be a very interesting conversation about about Ivory Coast again.
It's always interesting to watch how some of these leaders are able to pull off these, sham elections. Any final thoughts from your end?
When there was a cross in 2010, 2011, there were some people, some Pan-Africanists, people like Horace Campbell from Syracuse University, who was repeating the narrative of the West, because we knew that he did not understand what was happening, and he did not know. He thought he knew Gbagbo, but he did not know Mr. Ouattara, or maybe he did not want to know Mr. Ouattara. And then today, all the people who were talking on the side of Mr. Ouattara, they are voiceless. They cannot talk anymore, because I can say that they may be embarrassed or they may be ashamed to have supported somebody like Mr. Ouattara, who does not believe in democracy, and he said that himself, because he was the one who raised the rebellion and used the election to gain power, and then for 15 years he's been running the country with an iron fist. It's unfortunate. What I'm saying today, it is exactly what I said in 2010, 2011. It is what I said in 2002. It is 2002. It is what I said when I was in my country. Yes, he has some skills, Mr. Ouattara. He was the deputy manager of the IMF. He has some leadership skills for sure, but his worldview is not in favor, is not in line with the current situation in Africa. In Africa today, we want economic sovereignty, we want political sovereignty, and we want Pan-Africanism. And then Africa is tired of leaders like Mr. Ouattara, who think that they have to be on the side of the Europeans in order to advance their agenda and their own agenda, and to the detriment of the spirit of self-determination of Africans who want more unity and more Pan-Africanism. That's why you can see that wave of support for the Sahel state leaders, even though they are military leaders, even though they are not talking about democratic elections there. So that you can see the context in which we are. Thanks.
Well, we'll leave it there. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and thank you so much for your insight, Dr. Nyaka.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
We want to know what you think about this move. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara at 83 wanting to run again for a fourth time. Tell us what you think in the comments below. And perhaps don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe to Paul Ndiho on Substack, X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube.